The offseason, it's finally starting. It's already moving faster than the previous two off seasons that we've had in Major League Baseball. We had Will Smith sign, I think, like last week with the Atlanta Braves. I will talk about that in today's video. But the first topic we're going to talk about, because it is much bigger news, is Yasmani Grandal signing with the Chicago White Sox. 4 years, $73 million. This is a big deal. This is like one of the, I think, the biggest deals in Chicago White Sox history. This is huge stuff. This automatically makes the team better. I'm going to go over this signing along with the Will Smith signing and any other free agent moves that I feel are worth talking about in today's video. But before I get going into that, make sure to leave a like on today's video. That's the best way to show your support. We are hyped for the off season. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you enjoy the content. If you love baseball, click that sub button, join the team. Anytime there's going to be a big move here during the off season, I'm going to be making a video about it, so you don't want to miss out. Remember to get in the comment section down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about the Grandal signing, about the Will Smith signing, down in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know your thoughts down below. And remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description down below. I'm always talking baseball over there. So Yasmani Grandal, a top 3 catcher in baseball, arguably top 2. It depends where you really want to put Wilson Contreras. But he was one of the top free agents on the market for a bat this offseason. He was definitely the top catcher on the market. The Chicago White Sox have swooped in. They weren't playing any games. They learned their lesson from the past couple off seasons where they've waited for players and they've lost. They got their guy. They got Yasmani Grandal. He was one of the big targets on their free agent board this offseason, and they signed him to a 4-year, $73 million deal. So like roughly $18 million a season, which, to be honest, I think is a really fair deal for both sides. Grandal is currently 31 years old, so this contract will take him into his 35-year-old season. That's really when catchers start to become like not very good anymore. When you get into the 30s, it does get a little bit more risky, but Yasmani Grandal has really showed no signs of slowing down. Plus, being with an American League team, they can keep him in the lineup for a lot more games than a National League team would because of that DH. He doesn't necessarily have to catch every single game this year. He can catch 100 games, DH in 50, and he'll be playing in 150 games. That's a really good value for Yasmani Grandal, because when you break down his numbers and you break down his 162 game average, he has really good numbers, especially when you consider he's coming from the catcher position. Last season, Grandal had the best season of his career. He took a risk. He bet on himself taking a 1-year deal with the Milwaukee Brewers, and it worked out big time. In 153 games last year for the Milwaukee Brewers, Grandal hit 28 homers, 26 doubles, 2 triples to give him 77 RBIs. He had a career high in hits, runs, at-bats, plate appearances, home runs, RBIs, stolen bases, funny enough. He walked 109 times, which was by far a career high. Actually cut down on strikeouts last season. Hit 246 with a 380 on base, 468 slugging, and an 848 OPS. All of those besides batting average being career highs. He had a fantastic season. And like I said, the White Sox have the luxury of being able to put him at catcher as well as use him in the DH slot. And when you look at his 162 game average, his numbers get even better. So with Yasmani Grandal, the White Sox are getting a switch hitting power bat who can play catcher, who can now play pretty much every day. I mean, you can even rest the guy by having him DH. That's huge for their lineup. They kind of lack a left-handed power bat. A lot of their best hitters are going to be right-handed. He adds a nice mix into there. He's a great defensive catcher, one of the better framing catchers in baseball. That's going to be big for the White Sox, who have a young starting rotation, who have a young team on the pitching side. Just in general, they have a young team. He's going to be able to be that veteran leader. He's going to be able to control the pitching staff. He's going to do a great job behind the plate. This is a really good signing. Plus, with the 26-man rosters that Major League Baseball is expanding to next season, this allows for them to carry 3 catchers. If they wanted to keep James McCann, have him DH, have him catch as well, they could have the luxury of doing that. Or they can now go out and take James McCann and trade him for some more pitching help, maybe another reliever, maybe a back-end starting pitcher. They have the opportunity to do a lot more by signing Yasmani Grandal, and at pretty much $18 million a year, I don't think it's a bad signing. I see some people saying that he's getting overpaid, that they paid too much for Grandal. I don't see it. He's been one of the top catchers in baseball the last few years. He's great defensively. He's got a really good bat, especially for a catcher. I don't think $18 million is crazy at all. Even if you told me $20 million for 4 years, that's not bad. 35 years old is when he's going to be in his last season with the White Sox. That's really not a problem. If they signed him for 6, 7 years, then you're overpaying for those last couple. But right now, you are arguably getting Yasmani Grandal in his prime, maybe the back end of it, and you're paying him $18 million a year. I think that's a really good move by the Chicago White Sox. Plus the ability now to trade James McCann. You add him into a Chicago White Sox lineup that's already pretty solid offensively. Eloy Jimenez, hopefully we'll see him for a full season and healthy this year. He went off towards the end of the year. He's got crazy power. Luis Robert is on his way up. I can't wait to see that guy play. Imagine him and Eloy on the same team in that lineup. Disgusting. Tim Anderson had a fantastic year last year. Yoan Moncada stepped up, finally looked like the prospect we expected him to be. You had Jose Abreu back into the lineup at first base, a guy who just consistently 30 homers, 100 RBIs, high average. He's a great hitter, great leader for that Chicago White Sox team. A few more pieces here and there for the Chicago White Sox, and that offense is going to be extremely strong and an offense to watch out for. Now it's just a matter matter of whether they can get a pitcher or two to help out, because yes, Kopech is coming back from Tommy John, but he's also coming back from Tommy John, so you can't really rely on him to be a workhorse. Giolito took step forwards last year, Ronaldo Lopez not so much, but if they can get some serious pitching, this White Sox team has a chance to at least be a contender in their own division, and Yasmani Grandal was a step in the right direction. I really like that signing by them. Also, I love when teams just go out and say, this is the guy we want, we're not wasting any time, here's what you're worth, here's what we're paying you, you're on our team. Good signing by the Chicago White Sox. I give it an A, like big fan of this. And then the other signing or signings that I want to talk about has to do with the Atlanta Braves getting 2 relievers. They re-signed Chris Martin, which I'll talk about after this next guy, because they got Will Smith, who is a big-time left-handed reliever in Major League Baseball. 3 years, $40 million for Will Smith. Again, I think it's a very fair contract. Coming in at just over $13 million a year for Will Smith, who is one of the better left-handed relievers in the game, super underrated because he played in San Francisco the last few years. They weren't competitive, they weren't playing big-time games. You may not have heard about him unless you watch National League or specifically National League West Baseball. But Will Smith is a legit left-handed reliever. He is very good. He was good with the Brewers, continued it with the Giants, and I expect him to continue to be a very solid reliever out in Atlanta. Smith really took the step forward in his career in 2015 with Milwaukee. Prior to that, he had been a solid reliever, but that's when he really started to figure it out, and that's where he really made the jump to not being just a left-handed specialist. Like, he can get anybody out. 2018 with the Giants, he had a 2.55 ERA, a whip under 1 at .981, that's nasty. 2019, similar numbers, ERA at 2.76, whip at 1.02. Like, those are really good numbers for a reliever, especially left-handed. Think about some of the best left-handed relievers in baseball right now. There's not a lot to go around, and the fact that the Braves went out, same thing. They were aggressive. They knew what they needed. We need pitching. We need bullpen specifically. That's what let us down in the playoffs. They grabbed Will Smith. They said, this is the guy we want. They're paying him, again, a fair price. $13 million is not crazy at all for Will Smith. He's younger than Andrew Miller, who last offseason got $12 million a year, pretty much. I think it's a really good sign by the Atlanta Braves. Think about that back end of the bullpen now. You have Mark Melancon. You have Shane Green. You have Will Smith. You have Chris Martin. That is a really solid 4 arms that the Braves have, and I think they're going to go out and grab more. This team is going to be dangerous. As a Mets fan, I'm getting scared because I don't know how we're going to compete with this team. The offense is already disgusting. Their starting pitching has a lot of young talent and is only getting better, and they're probably going to grab another big arm for that rotation. Now their bullpen's getting solidified. What are you going to have to do to beat this Braves team on a consistent basis? It looks like they're going to lock down the National League East pretty easy this year, barring any injury. The Braves then also re-signed Chris Martin, like I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video, 2 years, $14 million. Again, very cheap. That's not an insane amount of money to pay for Chris Martin, who had a really nice season last year. Now, yes, he struggled a little bit more with Atlanta than he did in Texas, but when you break down his numbers, he actually didn't do too bad with Atlanta. He had a whip hovering right around 1, which again is really solid. He wasn't giving up home runs, he wasn't giving up walks, he was still striking out a ton of batters. It was just he gave up a few more hits here and there, and when you look at his game logs, he actually didn't pitch that bad, like I was saying. He appeared in 20 games, 17 2/3 innings for the Atlanta Braves, and in only 2 of those outings did he give up 2 or more earned runs, which is kind of what inflated his ERA there. He had an appearance on August 5th where he gave up 2 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning, and then on August 9th he had an appearance where he gave up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Otherwise, for the most part, Chris Martin was pretty locked down. So that 4 ERA that he had with the Braves was a little bit inflated, and it doesn't really show the kind of quality or the kind of pitcher that he was with Atlanta. He was still a very solid guy to have in that bullpen, and now with grabbing a guy like Will Smith, he's not even your 3rd option. He's your 4th guy. He can come in the 6th inning, hypothetically. You could go Martin 6th, Will Smith 7th, or Shane Green 7th. You do another one for the 8th, and then you got Melancon for the 9th. That's a pretty locked down bullpen if you ask me. That's kind of similar to how the Kansas City Royals were built back in 2015 when they won the World Series. You have that 1, 2, 3, 4. We saw the Yankees do it. We've seen teams kind of moving to this like stalwart back end of the bullpen. You have a chance to be a really solid team. I like the moves the Atlanta Braves made. Chris Martin coming back, smart move. I think it's great. Will Smith being the new addition, fantastic. Overall, all the signings that we've really seen or that are worth talking about right now in Major League Baseball, I'm a big fan, and if you're a Yankees fan, you're actually probably even more happy because you cut 2 guys who were just absolutely dead weight. You cut Jacoby Ellsbury, he's gone. You don't have to worry about him anymore. The Jacoby Ellsbury memes for the New York Yankees, they're over. They're going to eat the money. They just straight up released him. He hasn't played in 2 seasons, 2 full seasons, and even when he was playing, he was barely a player that we saw in Boston. He was not good with the Yankees. They're finally done with him. The Jacoby Ellsbury era is over, and they also cut the best first baseman in all of baseball, Greg Bird. I know, it's crazy. How can you cut Greg Bird? He is literally the best first baseman baseman in all of baseball. Clearly I'm sarcastic, by the way. The Yankees must have big plans this offseason if they're cutting Greg Bird. So those are all the moves and all the news I think I have to talk about today. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments below, as well as letting me know what you thought about the Grandal move, the Will Smith, Chris Martin signings. Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it and you want to see more of this content on the channel, as well as subscribe so that if I do upload it, you don't miss out and you get notified. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links in the description. I'm always talking baseball over there. And that's going to wrap up today's video. You guys know the drill. YouTube recommends you watch this video right here, as well as this is my most recent upload. So click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys, and I'll see you all next time for another video. Bye.